So I get quite a lot of comments on my YouTube videos asking about the different tools and accessories that I'm using, as I don't really talk about them quite as much as I do the chemicals. So what I thought I'd do today is take you through some of my favourites and the ones that I don't really feel like I could manage without. Now, some of these have been previously sent to review by the respective brands and a lot of them have been purchased by myself. So what I'm just going to be doing is taking you through why I like them and showing plenty of clips of them in action as well. So first up is my ACHQ pump sprayer. So this is a product that I use on pretty much every video, and it's certainly a product that I don't feel like I can manage without. So it does what it says on the tin really, and it's just miles better than using just a regular trigger spray to be able to cover a large area quite quickly. So my primary uses for this are of course pre-washing the vehicle, and I also use it for areas like door shuts, and even when I work on the interior on the mats and the fabrics that I'm going to be doing some kind of extraction on. I do also have the ACHQ Pump Foamer, which is a different product, and that is certainly something that I use quite a bit as well. However, I don't see it as quite as essential as my pump sprayer, so this is definitely my favourite of the two. And if you're currently just using a trigger spray to apply your citrus pre-wash to the car, then I definitely would consider getting one of these because it does make life a lot easier. Next up is my bucket organiser, and this one in particular is from Auto Finesse. This again is a pretty straightforward product, but one that's actually surprisingly very handy. So it just clips onto the side of the bucket, and I mainly use it just when I'm cleaning the wheels, and I'll put my tyre brush or a mitt in there, and it also has some holders on the side where I can put my softer detailing brushes. Now this is one of those products where I saw as kind of a luxury and I didn't really think I'd need one until I actually got it, and then now I don't really know how I'd managed before. It saves me having to reach in the bucket to try and fish out my detailing brushes, and also allows me to separate my kind of clean and dirty brushes so that I'm not mixing them as much in the bucket and potentially contaminating that water. So next up is the first brush on this list, and this is my Carscope wheel brush. So this is actually a brush that you probably won't see me use that much in my vehicle transformations, as it's something that I generally tend to use on my own car. So it is a microfiber style wheel brush, which I do personally prefer to use compared to the bristle style on my own wheels. And the main reason for this is because the microfiber is of course a lot softer than the bristles that you'll find on something like an easy detail brush. Now, one of the drawbacks of these microfiber style brushes is that they tend to be very bulky and difficult to fit into narrow gaps between the wheel barrel and say the brake disc guard. So this is why I like this one in particular, because it fits in a lot smaller spaces than most kind of wheel brushes, such as the Detail Factory one that I have. The only drawback I've noticed of this particular brush is that it does get quite heavy and take a while to dry out. However, I do think it's one of the best designs out there if you're looking for something that's really nice and safe on the finish, but easily fits into those tighter gaps. The next accessory on this list is the Interdetailing Scrub Pad. This is again something that I put off purchasing for quite a while, as I kind of didn't really think I needed it, but it is now the go-to accessory I use on interiors. Compared to a detailing brush, it allows you to cover a much larger area much more quickly, and it's quite ergonomic as well, so you don't get any kind of hand cramping as you might get with a detailing brush. And also, in comparison to a microfiber towel, it just has a lot more bite to it, so it's really good for agitating plastics that have a little bit of that texture to it, or any kind of ingrained mud, particularly on the lower sections where people have a tendency to kick them on the way out of the car. I purchased a pack of these, so I have some that I reserve for the dirtier areas, kind of lower down on the car, and then some I keep a little bit cleaner for the areas where you're more likely to be touching on a regular basis. Next up is a pressure washer accessory, and this is my short gum. So I have had one of these for quite a while now, and in the past year I upgraded it to the SGS 35 by MTM, and it does definitely have a better build quality compared to the cheaper Interdetailing one that I was previously using. Now, there is quite a bit of a price difference between those two options, and I do think the expensive one probably doesn't give you quite as much value. So if you've seen the price of this MTM one and been put off, then I do think that the Interdetailing one that comes out significantly cheaper is a good option to look at. The main reason I like using this shorter gun compared to the longer lances that most pressure washers come with is that it just allows me a lot more control, particularly when cleaning tighter areas like the wheel arches. And it also makes snow foaming easier as well, as the cannon's a lot closer to the gun itself. Next up is another brush, and this is the Detail Factory Tyre Brush. Now this again is something that you probably haven't seen me use too much on the vehicle transformation videos that I film quite frequently, and the reason being is that this is typically something that I use on my own car, or at least cars that I've regularly maintained. Compared to the stiffer tyre brush that I usually use, the bristles on this are much softer and more flexible, although they do still provide a good amount of agitation. The benefit here is that it's just not as aggressive, so when I'm not trying to scrub away all the tyre dressing and protection that I've put on the previous wash, this is the option that I'll go for. I also like using it on my Pilot Sport tyres as they have kind of a velvet texture tyre wall, which I don't really like scrubbing with anything too aggressive. Next up is my set of drill brush attachments. So this is something I find pretty much essential for those neglected interiors where they haven't been cleaned in a long time. There's two brushes that I use in particular in this set. One of them I find very useful for agitating carpets where there's a lot of ingrained sand and dirt, where I'm having trouble getting the vacuum to effectively pick that up. So I use this to agitate that and kind of bring it to the surface so it can be more easily vacuumed. And without this brush, I'd have found it very difficult to get certain carpets back up to standard. And the second brush in the set I use primarily for agitating the cleaner on fabric seats that I'm going to be doing an extraction on, and on mats as well, whether they're fabric or rubber. It's just way more efficient than using a regular detailing brush and allows you to get a much more thorough clean. So I end up with better results overall when I use this particular brush rather than a handheld one. So next up is my favourite foam cannon, and this is the Pyramid Car Care Hydro Cannon. Now I do have 3 foam cannons in my collection. I've got the MJJC and I've also got the MTM PF22. All 3 of these foam cannons I think are very good and I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. The reason I've chose this one in particular is because I find myself reaching for it much more than the other 2 and I just enjoy using it the most out of the 3. Some design features that I like on this one are the clear plastic bottle with very clear measurements on the sides, so measuring out the solution is really easy. It also has a wide mouth on the bottle, which not only makes it easier for pouring chemical in, but also rinsing out the foam cannon after I've used it. And that's something that I find a bit annoying with the MTM foam cannon, as that narrow opening makes it really annoying to fully rinse out the bottle. The head of this one has a slightly different design to most foam cannons in that it has 5 adjustable patterns rather than a fan that you adjust the width and direction of. Primarily I stick to the vertical pattern, however I do find the downwards pattern quite useful for doing the roof on larger vehicles where I just can't reach as high. Next on the list is another brush, and this is the Easy Go brush. Again, one where I didn't think I'd need it, and then once I'd tried it, couldn't imagine a life without it. And this is perfect for cleaning the wheel arches. In all honesty, the design of it does look like a glorified toilet brush. However, it's just very effective at reaching the back of wheel arches and just getting a really thorough and complete clean. I've had this for well over 18 months now and it basically looks brand new, and they last for a long time, which is where a lot of cheaper alternatives seem to fall down. I also wanted to complete this list with my favourite microfiber accessories. Now you'll see me on my videos using a lot of different towels and mitts, and I do have a decent amount in my collection, so I'm just going to take you through 3 of my favourites. Now all of these are by the Rag Company, and having tried a lot of different brands, I do find these personally to be the best quality and they just hold up really well over time. So first up is the Cyclone Wash Mitt, which is ridiculously soft and does come in a few different colours as well, so I do have 2 of them. I have tried wash mitts and pads and I do probably lean a little bit more towards wash mitts, just as with me having quite small hands I find them a little bit easier to manage, and the risk of dropping them is of course 0. They also tend to be a bit more flexible, so getting into those tighter areas around kind of the front bumper, around the lights and the grille, I just find a little bit easier compared to using a wash pad, which I find more difficult to manipulate around those kind of corners. Next up is the Eagle Edgeless 500. Now this is a towel where I was very wary of before I actually tried it because it's very fluffy and plush, and having used this kind of towel by other brands previously, I found them to just leave lint all over the car, which is of course very annoying, particularly when using them for those finishing jobs like applying a quick detailer or buffing off a wax. It's just not something I want to be dealing with at that stage. This just completely changed my mind and I do really love this towel. It's ridiculously soft, probably softer than it even looks, so it's super safe on those delicate finishes, which I'm very conscious of as my Mazda does have very soft paint. It also holds up really well after multiple wash cycles. I've washed these towels loads and they just don't lose that softness and just still feel really nice and safe. And the final towel is the FTW, which is a glass towel. It's a slightly different weave compared to most glass towels, which seem to have that kind of diamond or fish scale weave. This has more of a twisted loop design, but I just find it to be incredibly effective at cleaning glass without leaving any streaks or any kind of lint or fibres behind, which is the main challenge that I find when cleaning windows. So all these products will be linked in the description, and I do have some discount codes as well that you can use for some of them. If you have enjoyed the video, it'd be great if you could drop it a like, and thanks for watching.